Let's see the difference between non-generics and generics in C#. This is Daniel, and you are going to get coded. Here I have Visual Studio opened, and we need to create a simple console application to actually illustrate this thing, okay, this concept. So, File, New Project. Under Visual C# Windows Desktop Console App, I'm going to rename this to Generics, and then hit OK. While this is loading, again, I have a link, and you can find the link in the description down below. So make sure you check that link out. And also, before we continue, this is how I prefer teaching you guys concepts. So I want you to get into code. I want to see code. I want to see how this works. So just a side note before we start, okay? We are going to create an array list, which is a non-generic collection. So if you don't know what an array list is, you can check the video over here. In that video, I explained everything you kind of need to know about array list or the array list class, and how to create one, how to add items to it, and why you might need it or why you might not need it. So make sure you watch that video. So let's create an array variable to which we add all sorts of items. So you can see that I add a number, I add a string, I add a boolean value. So we are able to add all these items because this is a non-generic. We can add anything we like. So let's try to create that array. So var array. I'm going to say new array list, just like that. And I think I need to include something using system.collection. So control dot and then enter. And we don't need parentheses because we are creating an object, but because we are using object initializer, we don't need the extra set of parentheses. So we don't need to say something like this. We can remove them and we can replace them actually with the curly braces. So I'm going to add a number, I'm going to add computer, and I'm going to add true. So 3 random values over here. So I have in total of 3 types. So I have an integer, I have a string, and I have a boolean. Okay, but what about adding an object? For this example, we need to create a custom class called song. Firstly, let's create a variable called song. So I'm going to actually, before the array, because I'm going to add it to the array, I'm going to create a song. So var song is going to be new song. Just like that. And I know it doesn't exist. Then you can see here I have the extra set of curly braces, of parentheses. I don't need them. I will still use the curly braces only. So I want to define an artist, and I just came up with this one. This is I think the last song I was listening to. So 21 Pilots. If you like this song, please give a thumbs up to this video as well. So 21 Pilots, and the name is going to be Lane Boy. And I know Visual Studio kind of has problems with this. It prompts me to use name of or namespace. Just press escape to escape that the IntelliSense, because I know you don't have name. And then I'm going to say Lane Boy, so this is going to be the name of the song. Okay, so right now you can see that I have a red squiggly line underneath the song. So let's try to click on that and then press Control dot, and this prompts us to actually generate the class. And I'm not going to generate a class in a new file. This is what you are going to do if you work for a project, if you work in a company, and so on. For this example, I want to make it simple. So I will make the class song right beneath the class program. So I'm going to choose the second option. So generate class, just like that. And this looks great. So you don't need to type them out. You can just generate the class. So this is the class generated. It has 2 properties, artist and name. It has these 2 because I defined them here. So because I initialized them with these 2 values, the artist and the name, they got here as properties, okay? So this is how you can use Visual Studio, built-in system, and IntelliSense, and so on to actually generate classes. So you need to make use of this. And whenever you have a red squiggly line, remember to actually press Control dot and see if you are missing something in using statement, or you might not have like the class generated as you saw before. So things like these. So make sure you press Control Dot and see what IntelliSense prompts you. Okay, so we have this one. Then hover, as I said, press Control Dot and then choose to generate class song. So we have it over here. Also, we have a constructor, so I need a constructor, and this is the reason I think why I added the parentheses. Let's try to see. So let's try to Control Z, so to undo things, and I'm going to say to put the parentheses over here. Let's see this time if the constructor is added. So Control Dot generate class song, so the second option, and yes, cool. So right now the constructor is generated as well. So a nice nifty thing actually. So if you want the constructor as well, you can add the parentheses, okay, beside the object initializer. I didn't know that. We can learn together, so that's great. And we can add it to the array. So right now the song stays here. We need to add it to the array. So I'm going to say array dot add, and I'm going to add a song. So you can see we have no problems whatsoever. I'm able to add to this array anything I like. So a number, string, right now a song, which is an object. Let's print the values of the array. So after the array.add operation, I'm going to say for each, and I'm going to put this for each on the array. So I will leave item because kind of we don't know what we have in the array. We kind of have everything. So I'm going to say array and then enter. And inside here, CW tab for console.writeLine, and then I'm going to pass the item. Also, to keep our console from not closing, we need console.readKey. You know that already. So let's try to save it and press F5 and see our items inside the array list. And I think it's a little bit too small for you, so defaults 36, and I pressed on something else, I think. Properties, sorry, 36. Okay, so 21, computer true, and generics.song. Why do we have generics.song? Because we haven't overridden the toString method. So if you want to print something else, you need to have the toString method in the class. Right now, the base implementation, the default behavior of the toString method is to actually display the fully qualified name of the class. In our case, generics.song, generics because this is the name of our project, the name of our solution, well, generics, and the song, which is the class. So this is what it knows by default. If you want to print out the name of the song or the name and the artist, then you need to override the toString method. Okay, so let's press any key and let's continue. Limitations. Now this works as you saw, but what about printing the name property of the song? If we do the casting directly, the program will crash when the item is not a song. So here you can see that I'm trying to actually print the name of the name property. So if I just say .name, this doesn't exist. Okay, so we have a compile time error. We cannot even compile the code. So we need to cast it. So you can see here I have an extra pair of parentheses, not of curly braces, but of parentheses for the song. Okay, so one here and another one for the song. So let's try to do that. Parentheses, I'm going to cast it to a song. This is a song. And then I'm going to use an extra pair of parentheses. Okay, I have a problem with those. Notice the extra set of parentheses surrounding the song item. So you can see we need those because we need to say .name. So right now if I say dot, you can see artist and name, so all the properties from the song class. This is why you need the extra set of parentheses surrounding the casting. Okay, so right now we can print the name, can we? So let's try to press F5 and see what we get. And we get an exception, invalid cast exception, unable to cast object of type int to generics.song. So it actually tried to parse or to cast 21 to a song, and it failed because 21 is not a song. So this is the limitation. If you want specific properties of items, you cannot just do this. So let's see how we can fix it. I'm going to press any key, but this doesn't work. Oh, I need to continue. Okay, so because it broke. To fix this, we can check to see if the current item is a song object, and then we can try to print its name property. So you can see right now I use an if statement, and inside the if statement I have item is song. So let's try to write that. So inside the for each I need the if statement. So if tab tab, I'm going to say if item is song. Is this item a song? If it is, then I'm going to make this. So in order to move that specific line up, you need to press on Alt and then up arrow. Just like that. And also you can see that this is not formatted, so we can press Control KD to format the code, and also we can remove this line over here. Okay, so right now we need to check, is this specific item that I'm iterating over a song? And you can see the is operator over here. If it is a song, then we know that this code over here won't cause an exception, won't generate an exception. So let's try to actually run this time. So F5, and we can see that right now we get the name. So Lane Boy, this is the name of the song. So this works. We can do this with the as operator as well, but we need to introduce a new variable. So in C# you kind of have many approaches with checking if an item is of specific type. Right now I'm using the is operator, but we can use also the as operator, and we can remove the casting. Okay, so either or, depends on you. So either you use casting like this, or you use the as operator like this. And also there is a difference between these two, and I'm going to make a separate video explaining this difference. So I will still need the if statement with the is operator, but right now I need the song item variable. So song item is going to be item as string as song, and then I'm going to say, instead of this casting over here, and my computer is thinking so much, okay, I'm going to say song item, and I need to remove this parenthesis as well. So song item dot name. Right now we need to use the as operator. Okay, so again, casting with parentheses or the as operator, both will cast the object. Okay, so F5, and let's see the result. So you can see again, Lane Boy, the same name of the song is displayed. So you can choose either or. But you can see how difficult it became to operate on individual items. So we have many if statements, and imagine this copied many times. If this item is like this, then do this. If this item is of this type, then do something different. This is going to be so hairy, so much, so complicated. And yeah, too much. Okay. Indeed, we have flexibility to add any item we want, but in the long run, it's not maintainable. This code is prone to errors, so it's very difficult for us to actually maintain this code. So if we copy and paste code, if you write complex functions, complex loop statements, they become very difficult to maintain. So to continue on adding and expanding and working with others. This is why we have generics. So let's create a list of type song. So right now I will keep these statements over here, and I'm going to create the list afterwards. So I'm going to say var list, and this is going to be new list of type song. So this specific list is going to contain only song items. And then to this list we can add only song objects. You can see here I have again an object initializer, and I'm trying actually to add 21, and then I'm adding the song. So let's try to do that as well. So I'm going to remove the parentheses, and I'm going to add the curly braces. And let's try to say 21. And we can see that we have an error. Cannot convert from int to generics.song. So right now, this is the actual idea of generics. We have errors at compile time. So previously, we didn't have any errors. We didn't have errors like this, like the red squiggly line, when we are trying to actually add anything to the array. But afterwards in our code, in our for each, we had a problem. We had an exception. And whenever you have an exception, the program is going to crash. There is a workaround exception, so you can use the try catch block to actually try to catch exceptions, so to not let the program crash. But this is prone to error as well. So we need something to actually tell us this here is an error. Don't wait until the runtime to actually see that this is an error. I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now that this is an error. You don't have to click save and then run the project and then see an exception popping out. So this is the actual idea of generics. I can tell you right now that this is an error. You are not allowed to do something like this because the list variable over here can contain only song items. This is the logic. This is what you want to build in your application. So I can just point to you, well, this is an error. I cannot compile. So this program cannot even compile. So if you don't know the processes or the steps or the stages, first compilation and then the runtime, so you actually run the program, so you build it. So this program will not even build. So let's try to remove 21. We don't need it over here, and we can add a song. And also we need the semicolon after the list declaration. So you can see that right now I am able to add a song. So as I said, we can get compile time errors, meaning before we execute the code. So before I press start or I build it or I compile it, we add something wrong to a collection. So whenever we do something that is wrong, we get an error. We see something. And that's the whole mindset of actually writing in a typed language like C#, similar to TypeScript and other programming languages which are typed like Java. So you can use the typing system to actually telling you about possible bugs and errors and things that you might have at runtime. This is the reason why you need to use a typed language. So you need to make use of that. Let's get the name property of the song directly without casting. So right now we don't need to cast. We can just say item.name. So let's try to say for each. I'm going to leave item as it is for now and then list. And inside I'm going to say cw tab. I'm going to say item.name. So right now there is a name property on the item because this item, if we hover over var, you can see that it is a generics.song. So it's a song variable. If we hover over this one, you can see that this is an object, system.object. So two different things. And if we press F5, also save and F5, let's try to wait, we get 2 times. So the first time was from the array list. The second time is from the list, from the generic list collection. Okay, let's press any key. Right now, to go more into the generics thing, we can actually rename the list. So this is not a generic list. This is not just a random list. This is a list of songs. So we can press Ctrl+RR and we can rename this to songs. And right now, this is not just an item. Right now, this is a song. So Ctrl+RR, song. And this is going to conflict. So I have a naming conflict. Okay. So I will still apply this or not. Should we apply it or not? So let's see the actual problem. I'm trying actually here to have for each, and I want to name it song because I'm iterating over songs. And then you see here that I have another variable called song. So let's try to rename this to new song because this is what I'm trying to add here. So Ctrl+RR, new song, and then hit apply, and hopefully here I have song, okay, and the new song over here. Cool. Let's try to press F5 one more time to make sure that our renaming was made well, and it was. So this is again the mindset of generics. Right now we don't have just a random collection. We have songs. We have song. We are iterating over songs. So we can become very specific. So we get or we achieve a higher, and what's the name for that? So you are specific, and then you go into specifics. I don't know. So the noun for specific. So you can get there. You can actually get the properties. You can actually get the methods without casting. That's the whole point. The point is to not write something like this. The point is to not write an is and an as or casting as before with parentheses. We don't need that because we have different collections. And right now you might ask me, well, doesn't it make sense for now on to just use list? Well, sometimes it makes sense to use an array list. In general, you would use a list because you want to operate on items or on collections which contain similar items. So it doesn't make sense to have in the same collection an array of something and then an object and then a report and then a number. Like, you cannot operate on those. Sometimes it makes sense, and that's why you have an array list. Other times it doesn't. So in general, in many cases, many cases, you would use a list because it's dynamic, you can resize, and you can add only items of that specific type. Okay? So the conclusion, this is the power of generics. I hope right now you understand the difference between generics and non-generics. You can see like how they work and how much you don't have to actually write. So you don't need to write all of these castings. And imagine, I'm actually checking only for the song type. Imagine other types, imagine numbers and doing all those things. And even though we spend time to actually write the code and write everything that I said, still the code is prone to errors because you might do something which is not good. For example, you have an array of numbers and then you put a string there. And if you just say plus between those items, you are going to actually concatenate those things and not actually adding them together. So the code is prone to errors. This is not what you should do. So generics, very nice. Click thumbs up if you agree with me. And also consider subscribing. Until next time, bye guys.